Welcome to Innovation Guelph Presents Toolkit Tuesday. My name is Mickey Campo. I am the Director of Community Growth with Innovation Guelph, and I'm really excited to be here hosting the call today with Sarah. First, I'd like to welcome our two American Sign Language interpreters whose time today has been graciously provided in kind by Asign. So hi to Roxanne and to Jeanette. Thank you both for joining us today. And of course, thank you to Asign. While I'm at it, I'd also like to thank our corporate sponsors, Ernst & Young, Reese and Invest in Guelph, and we're very grateful for their support. Before beginning officially today, I would like to give some recognition to the land that Guelph is on. We acknowledge that many others here may not be in Guelph, so we do invite you and encourage each of you to give the recognition to the land that you occupy today and every day. As we gather for today's event, we are reminded that Guelph is situated on treaty land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history and home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people today. We are responsible for the stewardship of the land in which we live and work. So today we acknowledge the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation of the Anishtabak peoples on whose traditional territory we are meeting. Today's webinar is called Unleashing the Power of Sustainability. It's a roadmap for startup success. And we have Sylvia Gedge and Katie Sutter with us here today. In case some of you are new to Innovation Guelph, just a really quick background. Innovation Guelph is one of 17 regional innovation centers in Ontario. And while we are located here in Guelph, we serve the entire region of Southern Ontario, and we have one national program. So in fact, while most of our clients are here and close by in Ontario, we actually have clients in BC all the way to Nova Scotia, and of course, all throughout Ontario. So we work with our clients, supporting them throughout multiple stages of business growth, from startup to scale up, with lots of programs and workshops and networking opportunities. But enough about us. Let's start talking about the reason why you are here today. So today's expert presenters are Sylvia Gedge and Katie Sutter from ScriptString.AI. Sylvia has been an entrepreneur and has an extensive experience in business, finance, and digital transformation. Her passion is creating a positive impact and leveraging technology to maximize results and do more with less. Sylvia has held various senior financial and operational roles in software, media, manufacturing, and distribution companies throughout her career. And then we have Katie Sutter as well. She has an academic, environmental, sustainability, and communications background. Katie has used her skill set and knowledge to help environmental nonprofits and other organizations further sustainability mission through clear and compelling communications. Both women are from ScriptString.AI, and we welcome them both to the call today, and I'm sure we can learn lots from them. Should you have any questions for Katie or Sylvia today, please use the Q&A feature of Zoom, and we will monitor and ask your questions when the right moment appears during the presentation or during the organized question and answer period at the end. So I'm going to be quiet now, and I'm going to hand things over to Sylvia and Katie. So welcome, and over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the warm introduction, and very nice to meet you all. See you here in this webinar. We have a packed 60 minutes for all of you today, 45 minutes of content. So please, anytime you have a question, do put it in the chat, and we'll get sort of to those questions. So today we're going to talk about why corporate sustainability is important. What is ESG versus sustainability? A lot of people sort of kind of get confused and think sometimes it might be the same thing. What are the benefits of the sustainability? And this is, why we are here today, to really understand why should I do this? What are the ESG risk management principles? What does the current reporting landscape look like today? We as well have some tools for you to get you going on your sustainability strategy. So we're going to go over KPI workbook, which is helpful to design your own sustainability strategy. And then we're going to finish off with an ESG scorecard demo, a presentation, which is our free tool for small businesses that is designed to help you ultimately evaluate what is your sustainability practices right now and give you the baseline. And then we're going to finish up with Q&A. So lots of information. So why sustainability? Why are we here today? Why do we care about sustainability? And why do we need to take action right now, all of us? So let me just start by saying sustainability, it's not just about doing good for the environment and the society, even though whether we've been smelling it, we've been feeling it, all of us from coast to coast and even outside of Canada, we are definitely seeing why we need to take climate change sort of in a serious way. But it's as well about creating a long-term value for your business. When companies embrace sustainability, they can achieve significant competitive advantages, which means that these advantages, they can translate into financial, operational, and reputational benefits. And a good sustainability starts with a strategy. It starts with setting goals and then finding right tools to measure the progress. So my career has been in financial management, and throughout my career, part of my responsibilities in different organizations was finding business efficiencies, resource utilization, and planning for the future. So what I've learned sort of working with the various stakeholders, that looking at performance and looking at KPIs, the analysis was just part of the knowledge gathering. But having the conversation with leaders across all the different departments, that's really where the knowledge came from for me to be able to future-proof the businesses, to eliminate some of the risk and to learn from them. And the same thing applies in sustainability management. It touches each one of us, it touches many, many teams, and each one of us has a role to play. And I will pass it over to Katie for a deeper dive and an overview. What is sustainability versus ESG?
So I'm sure that you've probably heard the terms sustainability and ESG before. And while they are similar and some people or organizations use them interchangeably, they are different. So sustainability is a concept that has existed for a long time and is defined as meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. It does include the environmental, social, and economic spheres, and ensuring the way we act now will allow those to prosper in the future. There is a scientific focus in the regular approach to sustainability and looking at a business impacts on the world as a whole. ESG, on the other hand, is a more recent term that has come to fruition in the investment world. So it is a way for investors to analyze a potential or current investment in the environmental, social, and governance spheres. There is more of a focus on the company, how their impacts in each of the areas are impacting the future of the company, while focusing on sustainability can be beneficial to all stakeholders, including employees, customers, and more. ESG focuses more on the needs of investors. This is not to say that they are entirely separated. Improving your ESG can, in turn, improve your overall sustainability. And some sources do use the terms interchangeably, but it's important to understand the difference in the needs and focus of each of these when introducing the concepts to your company's strategy. There may be things in your overall sustainability plan that will not pertain to what investors are asking you to specifically disclose pertaining to ESG. And I'll pass it back to Sylvia now to go over the benefits of incorporating sustainable practices.
So I saw the question just pop up before I go into what are the benefits. ESG stands for environmental, social, governance. So that's what the ESG is. And thank you. We should have clarified it. So what are the benefits? There is many benefits of being sustainable. And to me, it's always, even as a finance professional, sustainability, efficiency go hand in hand. And I would say the most critical advantage of corporate sustainability is improving operational efficiencies. This is where organizations, especially small organizations that, are very much always sort of, aware of where the money is going, and they need to sort of, stay on top of cash flow and things of that nature. Companies can eliminate waste. They can reduce energy consumption, and they can optimize the use of resources, which in fact, it generates cost savings. So that sort of, is good for business. Sustainability as well enhances your brand reputation. It helps to increase your customer loyalty, and it attracts customers. And all of us, even in this room, we are being more aware of sustainable brands, and making sort of the right choices. And the media has been really good sort of doing that, providing that awareness. It is staying top of mind. And now other folks like all of us here, they're looking for options. They're looking for sustainable brands. So if you can honor in on that, you can attract a customer base that will be your biggest supporters. As well, depending on sort of the industry, you might be more focused on the risk components. Maybe it's the environmental carbon emissions. So having sustainable practices can as well help to reduce the risk or potential liabilities from regulators. If we're looking on the social side, it could be as simple as employee retention, having poor HR practices and maybe no policies and a poor culture can create a high employee turnover, but that can be very simply prevented. Just, having that awareness. And as well, being a corporate citizen good corporate citizen and having good sustainability practices can look good with the lenders, the investors, and the insurance providers. Having a carbon footprint score, basic ESG score can help you get better insurance rates, and it can help you being that one company selected for specific funding. So it is coming even as Government of Canada, if you do go to their green procurement, now you need to disclose your ESG scores, your carbon emissions, and we're seeing more and more of that. So it is, there's definitely sort of a lot of benefits. So that's just sort of some of the benefits, but sometimes in the past, there is barriers where there is additional cost. But what we are seeing is that the customers now are willing to pay a premium for sustainable products. And this is sort of something new. According to Nelson, 73% of global consumers are willing to pay more. And this is all by integrating sustainability into their practices. Companies can start to differentiate themselves and have that competitive advantage, have that sort of appeal to their customers who value sustainability. There is few on the slide, there is few top brands that you're probably familiar with. Patagonia, Siemens, Unilever. These are all global sustainable brands. They have done a really good job sort of differentiate themselves, and that's consumers sort of, see that. Patagonia, they use sustainable materials for their outerwear. And they also give their consumers options to come into their shops. And if they have clothes that need repairing, they don't need to purchase new ones. They actually have options how they can sort of get those old sort of pieces repaired and still reuse them. Siemens is a technology company, and they mainly focus on the hardware component, and you would see some of their products in the healthcare, mobility, and infrastructure. And they're one of those technology companies that consistently within their specific industry has been one of the top 10 year on various sort of indexes, and they continuously innovate. Unilever is consumer goods, so you might be familiar with Dove. They have a whole suite between sort of food and other things. But they have made a pledge, and not only is it 2050, it's to reach a net zero emissions by 2039. So that's pretty aggressive and impressive at the same time. But to do that, they are making it a requirement for their suppliers to declare their carbon footprint on the goods and services on the invoice. So if you do want to do business with them, or maybe you currently already are doing businesses with them, that is a requirement, and that helps to preserve that brand and their commitments to net zero. So this is a pretty big list: environmental, social, governance, risk management, and governance principle. It's a lot of information. And for small businesses, you might think, you know what, this is really not, something that I need to tackle on quiet yet. This is more for awareness. And there will be, as your company matures and becomes bigger and bigger and grows, you will need to look at the different principles on this list to create a more robust. But this is fully sort of, all inclusive of all the aspects. And it really starts with identifying the ESG risk, your environmental, your social, your governance risk. And the way you would do that is by doing an ESG assessment, which is an all-inclusive assessment, looking at your company, looking at your current practices, environmental practices, your social, do I have an employee handbook? How am I paying my employees? Number of different things, but it's really doing that full inventory. How am I doing? So it is related, obviously, to sustainability, but it's just a good practice as a business to do that regardless. Once you go through this exercise of doing an assessment, then you would move into risk mitigation strategies. So based on the assessment, based on that baseline where we are all sort of doing small businesses, not everything is going to be perfect, and you keep on sort of making it better as time goes on. So, some of these things that you're going to uncover going through the assessment, you might want to mitigate and pick maybe sort of the 2, 3 top priorities, and then you need to build a strategy. So if one of the areas that perhaps carbon emissions is an area where you're like, yeah, you know what, to our business, this is very important, and we have identified that we need to do better. You're going to implement perhaps initiatives to reduce greenhouse emissions, look for abilities to find sort of those efficiencies and throughout the areas of your business, and then promote sustainable practices within the organization. Data collection and reporting is also very important. And as you are a smaller organization, the data collection and reporting, that might be something that you do in a spreadsheet, and you might be tying this information into your accounting system, and then maybe communicating to your website, this is how I'm doing on these specific activities. I've reduced greenhouse emissions by, X number. As you grow and as you scale and as your processes become more complex, you do want to keep data collection and reporting top of mind, because it is the ability of really tie in not just the ESG, the information is across different departments, it's in different systems. So you need to start thinking, is there tools that can help me automate this process? Because later, sort of, the bigger you get, the more sort of transparency you need to build into that process. ESG compliance and standards. So why this is important, this is the principle where for your specific industry, you need to look at what are the external regulatory standards. Each industry might have their specific standards, but then as well, there will be specific standards that, how should I be reporting my greenhouse emissions? What is the best practices? So it's looking at the reporting, the regulatory landscape and the standards, looking at what your competition is doing as well, and what are the practices, and then just creating sort of that awareness of the regulations and being able to communicate sort of, transparently what you are doing. Let's say reporting greenhouse emissions, here is the standard, here is how you comply sort of with that standard. Stakeholder engagement. And so when we refer to stakeholders, this is, anybody that ESG has an impact on. So this is internally your employees. They are your stakeholders as well. It's your customers, it's your supply chain, it's your investors, it's lenders, it's really sort of, anybody that you are having an impact. So it is really important that you understand from the different sort of people who are involved within the ESG, what are their expectations? What are some of the concerns? The employee concerns and the lenders will be different. So it's understanding that mechanism, how you can engage with the various stakeholders and communicate the right information based on the things that they care about. Leadership commitment is, this is ultimately part of your organization structure. You're going to be setting goals, you're going to be setting strategy, you're going to be communicating that to your employees. And to be able to make sustainability and ESG as part of a long-term strategy, you need to come up with a way to not just, kind of do it sort of in a silo, but really sort of have your organizational buy-in. So it's regular sort of conversations, looking at, how you can really sort of, add value to your organization and within sort of the leadership team. Supplier and value chain management. So this is your supply chain. And with the example, even with the Unilever, we're seeing more and more of that, where your supply chain is ultimately a reflection of your brand. Some of you might have heard of Scope 1, Scope 2, Scope 3, as it refers to greenhouse emissions. Scope 3 is related to your supply chain. And this is where you really need to sort of start looking at the practices. Who are your suppliers? If you want to have be sort of a be a sustainable brand, you need to extend sort of those expectations to your supply chain and maybe start sort of, creating a supplier chain policy where you need sort of your supply chain to be compliant with the same things that you want to be compliant with. Training and awareness. This is creating training for all this sort of employees within your organization at all the different levels. So because it could be sort of, environment, social, or governance, there will be different things that will be important and relevant to your business within your industry. This is where it's really sort of that tailored training. You need to educate your employees, you need to educate your leaders, and continuously create that awareness for the different sort of elements that are important. Continuous improvement. I think sort of, it speaks for itself, but once you have established a baseline, you have done an ESG risk assessment, you have some strategies, you're measuring, you have created specific performance indicators, okay, my priority is I'm going to be measuring greenhouse emissions and I'm going to be reducing it 20% this year. The continuous improvement is taking a look at the policy, taking a look at what you're doing on a regular basis and trying to do that better. Okay, maybe you have met your goal, maybe you have reduced your energy consumption by 20%. Can you reduce it by 20 more? And then keep going and focusing on the things that are really sort of adding impact. And the last piece is external verification and assurance. Probably most of you don't need to do that, but it's more for you to, again, be aware. Once you are a specific size, you have a robust ESG policy, you're communicating on your policy to external stakeholders. You will, at some point, somebody might ask, you know what, I want another layer of transparency, that the information that you are communicating to the lenders, to the investors, that I can rely on it and it's accurate. And there is service providers that can ultimately look at what you're doing within your ESG risk, your practices, and provide external verification. So that's more sort of, for the higher maturity. And that was a lot of information. I'm sure there'll be lots of questions, but now I'll pass it over to Katie, and she's going to fill you in. What does the reporting landscape look like today?
Amazing. Thank you, Sylvia. So the reporting landscape in this space is quite challenging, especially for businesses just getting started. Overall, kind of like the financial world, different standards, frameworks, and goals have been put in place around the world to kind of help businesses know what to report, how to report it to different stakeholders, and really how to understand how they're performing. So there's kind of 4 different key, I guess, reporting tools or schemas in this space. So we'll just do a quick overview of each of them. So the first is the mandatory regulations. So these are more like the need to do's. Some places have put in mandatory regulations that companies need to disclose to. Like in the EU, there's now the Sustainable Finance Disclosure Regulation. There also may be some incoming regulations that you should make your company aware of before you have to report, so that you can kind of get everything together, start tracking metrics according to it. And this could be like the ISSB sustainability disclosures, which were just released this year and are being talked about being made mandatory for companies of different sizes in different places around the world. The next are general standards and frameworks. So this could be GRI, SASB, or even the ISSB sustainability disclosures in places that they aren't mandatory. And there's many of these currently being used. They can be more structured, like the SASB, with specific disclosure items that you have to track certain metrics for, or they might be less structured and broader, like the CGSB framework. As well, some of these are more focused on investor needs, while others, like GRI, are focused on the needs of all stakeholders. So there's a lot of variation in this space too. And then ratings are provided, you give their, I guess, companies or organizations that you provide information to, and then they score you based on that information in an assessment. So an example of this would be Sustainalytics. And some investors may even ask you to use a certain rating provider so that they can see their investments across the same methodology. And then finally, the global goals and protocols are the bigger picture items. So these are like the SDGs. They focus on sustainability targets and goals on a larger scale for the world. They are great for a starting point as well, or to report to alongside another framework, or to benchmark against to show your impact on an even larger scale. In all of the above, each independent reporting tool differs in the scope of information, the guidance, the scope of materiality, the audience, if they are meant for one specific industry or many, the reporting timeline where you need to report, as well as the governance model. And because of the strong differences, doing your research, looking at how others in your industry might be reporting, and looking at what's material to your own company, so what is going to impact your company in the space in the long term, short term, and then even talking with a sustainability consultant can kind of help you navigate this space as well and be extremely beneficial. So next, we're going to dive into some resources. So I'll just share my screen in a different area in a second, but we're going to start with our KPI workbook and then do a quick demo of our ESG assessment, which is now available for free. But on this page, we will share it with you later. There is also links to different resources that might be helpful to you, being able to look at the different blogs that we've written around sustainability topics to get yourself more oriented in the space. There's also a few white papers on our website as well. So This is our KPI workbook. So we created this kind of for businesses that are just getting started on their sustainability or ESG journey, because it's so overwhelming at the beginning sometimes. This can help you get started, shape your program in reporting, and most importantly, help you create your KPIs, which are key performance indicators that can help you track your progress as you focus on certain sustainability goals. So there's a quick introduction at the beginning of this, and we will send it to you later in case it's helpful with you on your sustainability journey. And then it all starts with your sustainability strategy. So whether this is something that you've built out before, or this can help you kind of get your ducks in a row, you're going to walk through your motivations. So why are you going to do this work? Is it voluntary? Do you have to do it for investors? Do you have reporting or disclosure requirements? Or is there a certain purpose that you are wanting to help towards? Next is, what are you hoping to achieve? So what are you trying to measure and improve? How does this align with your overall business strategy? So if you're particularly wanting to focus on environmental progress or starting to track your emissions, you can kind of outline that general hope here. And then the frameworks that work for you. So if there's any frameworks that are recommended or required in your industry, or ones that you're hoping to work with or get started with, we in this workbook do recommend that if you're just getting started, the SDGs can be a good place to get started if you don't have anything that you have to report to. They're pretty easy to understand. As well, there is global goals that you can benchmark against and really show your customers what you're doing as well, if that's one of your motivation areas. So next, before choosing your KPIs, you have to get started with some SMART goals. So these are going to be setting however many goals that you want to work with for your sustainability program. So when you're doing this, you want to be specific, state exactly what you want to achieve, make it measurable. So how will you know when you've accomplished this goal? Make it achievable. How can this goal be accomplished? Or what initiatives will you complete to ensure that you meet this goal? Relevant, so does it seem worthwhile? So different industries might have different areas, even within environmental, social, or governance, that make more sense for their business to focus on. And then time-bound, when can you accomplish this goal by? And then there's also space to put your full goal once you've kind of got that sorted out, and you can duplicate these pages as much as you want if it's helpful to have that in there. And this is just an example of what that would look like to show you. So an example goal is to reduce the company's carbon footprint by 20% over the next 2 years by implementing a sustainability plan that includes energy efficiency measures, switching to renewables, and other initiatives. And then next, you're going to want to choose your KPIs. So if we look at the goal that we looked at before, there are some KPIs that might work with it. For example, the change in carbon footprint over time, because they want to reduce their carbon footprint. As well, they might want to know which areas of their business these emissions are coming from. So they might track their emissions by scope 1, 2, and 3, which if you are unaware, that is kind of how, especially for businesses tracking carbon or GHG emissions, they're broken down into 3 kind of separate components, or 3 different areas in which emissions are generated within a business. And then as well, they might want to know how much renewable energy they're using to their overall consumption, so they might track that as well. And you can really have as many KPIs you want to track. It's just going to give you more data in the end to work with and report to. And then we also did include in here our priority SDG KPI worksheet. So we've matched some different KPIs to the goals in case you are working with the SDGs. This can be a good starting space to give you an idea of different things you can track to show your progress towards that goal. And there's just a couple pages of those there. And by no means is the information in here the only things that you can track or anything, but it's just a good jumping point to give you a little bit more information. So on the last page, there also is an example. We recommend kind of, if you're using the SDGs, to start with 3 to 5 to focus your efforts on. So this company has chosen 7, 13, and 9, which is affordable and clean energy, climate action, and industry innovation and infrastructure. And then for each, they've determined a goal as well as a KPI that they're going to track for that goal. Awesome. And if you do use this KPI workbook, you're also welcome to contact Sylvia or I at any point. And we're happy to chat with you, answer any questions, help you out if you need, if there's anything that you don't understand or need a little bit of chat about different things. We're always here to book a time. And then next, we're going to move on to our second tool. So this is our platform here right now. We are offering right now a free ESG assessment. So if you do sign up for that, I'm just going to walk you through the process of it a little bit. So you'll be given a login, and then you'll be able to access the survey through heading over to your forms here. And if you do sign up, we'll send you great instructions as well. I can hop on a call with you to help as well. And then you're going to want to start a survey. So it gives you a little bit of information. The survey overall takes around 60 minutes. And I think Sylvia is going to pop in the chat the registration form as well, in case this is a tool after seeing it that you think could be helpful. And overall, it assesses your performance on core sustainability issues that are common to most of the popular reporting frameworks and standards. And it gives you bonus points as well for different things that you might be doing. I'll just give you a quick little show. So it's broken down. First, you have some basic information about your company. And then you go into the governance factors. So these are kind of about the ways that you govern your company. So lots of questions about CEO compensation, your purpose, vision, and mission. Just simple yes, no, partially questions here. And then it goes into more of the environmental questions. So some questions about energy, monitoring and recording energy usage. They do ask for some approximate percentages. They don't need to be 100%, but the more accurate they are is the more accurate your results will be. But it is okay if you don't have the exact number to give a little bit of an approximation. And as well, we will send out, if you do register, a little guideline of things that it's nice to have on hand when you're filling this out, so you don't have to go searching for information. But there also is a save and exit button in case you can only do 15 minutes and then need to step away for a bit. You're more than welcome to do that. Then there's some water management questions, supplies questions. So there is that question about the sustainable procurement policy that Sylvia was talking about earlier. Some GHG emissions questions. So they do go through scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. And these also, it is quite helpful too, to kind of do this assessment for starting up businesses as well, because they kind of go through each of the emissions factors, so you can get a better understanding of exactly what fits into each of the scopes too. And then non-GHG emissions, so other hazardous emissions that are generated through your work, packaging and waste, encroachment, so the ecosystems around you, how are you interacting with them, if you have any kind of policies to avoid harming these ecosystems, employee wages. So these are more the social questions that you're getting into now, with setting living wages, meeting minimum wage, health and well-being. So if you have any workplace injuries or fatalities, employment terms, so making sure if you're giving paid sick leave, holidays, fair working hours. And then diversity and inclusion. So this is all about if you have a DEI policy, your gender pay ratio. And then community, so kind of how you're interacting with the world around you within your own organization as well, your tax strategy, and then the positive impacts bonuses. So this is where your help towards other communities, if you offer different things like helping NGOs or volunteer days, those types of things. And then as soon as you're finished your survey, you can go to your workspace again, and you'll have two dashboards that are available for your viewing. So the first one is the ESG materiality assessment. So this just gives you scores and a breakdown. It has some information on how you are scored, on your progress towards environmental and social and governance. And we do have a score table here. So it highlights kind of areas where you're progressing well, where you're not doing so great. So it's kind of good too, because then you can understand the information. We're here to walk through it with you as well, to see exactly where you want to kind of focus your efforts on. And if you are using the SDGs or want to, there is a dashboard of that. It breaks it down by each of the SDGs, and there you can also see how you're progressing towards each of the goals. So here, this company, Clean Water and Sanitation, they're not scoring as highly, so they might want to focus their efforts there if that is something that's important to their business. And that is our ESG materiality assessment. So
thank you, Katie. And I just want to add, what the ESG scorecard, it's meant to be, it's an internal tool. So a lot of folks sometimes will be like, well, I don't really want to, disclose this information. It's for you to use it as an internal tool. You share pieces of information that you want to share. And we do recognize that, the information that you're going to putting in, it's your company valuable data. So our platform is very secure. We have top line encryption, and we are limiting sort of, any reason of threat. So you don't really need to worry about it. And we have a lot of information on the data security over there for you. But we did our own ESG assessment. We have committed sort of, to some specific goals, and having this tool, being able to go through that process was really critical, because as a small business, there is going to be gaps, and starting with the baseline, understanding what those gaps are, and then building the strategy based on, here are the things, this is my industry, this is the things that I care about and are important to me. It helps you to build a future roadmap. It helps you identify, and then, collectively with your team, within your organization, you have a baseline. You can build sort of that long-term strategy. So I urge you to, have a look at it, and, sign up, see if it's going to be sort of helpful for you. But now it is our Q&A. Not sure if there is any questions, but I'll pass it over.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for all of that. I think the workbook looks fantastic. What a great way to get people started thinking about how they want to move their business forward. I think that's fantastic. And of course, the application and working through everything looks great. What a great way to kind of plan out and figure out what your values are as a team, and move forward. If anyone has any questions, dropping them here would be great. Otherwise, I think we might actually end a little bit early. And I think that's what we're going to do, because we've been asking for some questions. You did get through a whole lot of information. So we will be sharing a copy of the presentation, and as well a copy of this video and any resources that you've seen here and we've talked about today. So we'll be sharing those out by the end of the week. I did just want to say before hanging up, thank you so much, Sylvia and Katie, for being here today. If anyone wants to connect with Katie and Sylvia, we'll send out the resources, but you can of course reach out to Sarah or to myself for an introduction, and we can definitely connect you. And before you all disappear, Sarah's going to be dropping the feedback form link into the chat. Look at that, she's quick. Just click on it and share your thoughts on this session and on the Toolkit Tuesday series in general. If there's a topic you'd like to see us present, let us know. Feel free to follow us on social media, tweet or post about your experience as well. We will definitely comment and reshare share as we can. Again, a sincere thank you to our experts today and to the Asign interpreters, both Jeanette and Roxanne, to our sponsors, and of course, a big thank you to Sarah and to all of you. Thanks for being here today. Have a great afternoon, and we hope to see you again next month. Keep posted to our website for information on what that topic will be. So I wish you all a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you for having us.